This is the Jillian Greyse Show, Vibrational Architect. I teach the discipline of redesigning the internal patterns that shape your love, your relationships, and the life you quietly know you were meant to live. Whether you're moving through familiar emotional cycles or you're a high achiever who senses there's more available to you, you're in the right place. This is where people learn to master the architecture of their lives and release the patterns holding them back from their inner blueprint. Each episode ends with a guided transmission to anchor the vibration we're working with so you can fully step into becoming the architect of your own life. Join me, Jillian Greyse, as we pull back the layers and rebuild the vibration you were always meant to live from. Welcome back. I'm Jillian Greyse, and today we're diving into a topic that every single one of us, no matter how evolved we are, no matter how intuitive we think we are, how spiritually attuned we consider ourselves to be, we all wrestle with this. And that topic is self-sabotage, but not the surface level version, not the you're afraid of success version, not the you need more discipline version. Today, we're going to talk about the quantum mechanics of self-sabotage, the energetic, philosophical, and identity-based reasons why you block the very things you want, and why your future self, the one you can feel so vividly, still feels just out of reach. Here's the truth. Self-sabotage is not a flaw. It's actually physics. And once you understand the mechanisms behind it, everything changes and you stop fighting yourself. You stop feeling ashamed. You stop thinking something's wrong with you, and you start understanding that your system is doing exactly what it's designed to do. So today, we're going to break down this layer by layer. We're going to talk about identity, frequency, coherence, nervous system safety, and the quantum field of your future. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand why you sabotage, but more importantly, you're going to know how to stop. Take a deep breath, let's settle in and begin. First, what self-sabotage actually is. Let's start by redefining self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is not laziness, and we get this so much in our culture. It's not a lack of willpower. It's not morally failing. It's not proof that you're broken. Self-sabotage is a protective mechanism. Your brain is wired for predictability, not for happiness. Sit with that for a moment. Because when you follow your thoughts, they're going to take you into a predictable place. They are not going to give you the emotions and the experience that you're longing. It's wired to be predictable. Your nervous system is wired for familiarity. It is not wired for expansion. Your subconscious is wired for coherence. It's not wired for evolution. So when you start moving towards a higher timeline, a healthier relationship, bigger opportunities, becoming more aligned with yourself, your system says, do we have the identity to hold this? And if the answer is no, sabotage activates, not to punish you, but to protect the identity you've been living in. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've been doing the work. You've been healing. You've been raising your standards. You've been calling in healthier relationships. You've been focused on the positive. You've been taking care of yourself. And then someone shows up who actually meets those standards. They communicate clearly. They're emotionally available. They're consistent. And suddenly, you panic. You overthink. You pull back. You find flaws. You start to question everything. And then you feel exposed. That's not because you don't want love. It's because your identity is still calibrated to the version of you who survived the chaos, not the version of you who received stability. Your system is trying to protect you from the unfamiliar at any given moment. Your energy and the way your thoughts function is for survival. Self-sabotage is simply your identity trying to stay coherent with that ultimate goal of your ego or your thoughts, your mind. So let's work on breaking out of that. Now we move on to 2. Now let's bring in the quantum layer, my favorite. In quantum mechanics, every potential version of you already exists as a probability field, a vibrational blueprint. There's a version of you who doesn't chase. There's a version of you that doesn't shrink. There's a version of you that doesn't repeat patterns, doesn't negotiate for your worth, doesn't abandon yourself, doesn't settle for crumbs. That version already exists, but you can only access that timeline when you're coherent with it. This is why you can see your future self, you can feel your future self, you can imagine your future self, but you can't yet become your future self. It's not lack of desire, it's lack of resonance. Your current identity and future identity are vibrating at different frequencies. And in quantum physics, two frequencies that don't match, they can't occupy the same space. So if you are actively trying to move into the next stage of where you can be deeper connected to yourself and you can align with things that you want, and you are experiencing opportunities in your current life to grow into that, but your mind is telling you to stay compartmentalized in what you know, you can see where that begins to become very complicated for someone to actively choose the direction they want to go in. That's what architecting your vibration is all about. And that is what I teach people to do. Let me give you a visual. Imagine two radio stations. Both exist, both are broadcasting, both are available, but you can only hear the one that you tuned the dial into. Your future self is broadcasting. They're not hiding. They're not really far away. They're not inaccessible. You just haven't tuned into that frequency yet. And that tuning, that's the shift. And that's what we're really focusing on today. Okay, so 3, the identity gap, where sabotage lives and where you are trying to bridge the gap. Self-sabotage happens in the space between. It's the space between the identity you've outgrown and the identity you haven't embodied yet. So there's this period of time in between those two pieces of self where you're in limbo. You're in that major creation point. You're in the unknown. And the unknown can be scary. The unknown can feel threatening. The unknown can feel, well, unknown. And let's face it, as humans, we usually like to know where we're going. And when you're in that unknown, this space is very uncomfortable. It's disorienting. It's where your brain says, we're unsafe. Even if you're aligned, even if you're headed into the right direction, your brain is going to say to you, you are unsafe. It's going to want to orient you into a direction. It's what it's designed to do. This is the space where you will feel stuck. You'll feel confused. You'll feel overwhelmed, resistant, avoidant, exhausted, off. You're not failing. You're transitioning identities. Let me give you a real example. Let's say you've been working on your boundaries and you've been practicing saying no, and you've been honoring your energy. And then someone asks you to do something that the old you would have said yes to immediately. You feel the pull. You feel the guilt. You feel the pressure. You know the aligned answer is no, but the old identity, the one who survived by pleasing, who is accommodating, who overgave, that you is still active. So when you say yes, you reset yourself back to that field. And then when you set yourself back to that field, you inevitably start to feel like you failed. You inevitably begin to pick at yourself, which changes the amount of self-love that could run through because you become almost self-abusive in your thoughts, which puts you into a self-sabotaging pattern. Here's the deal. You didn't fail. You just slipped into the identity that feels familiar. That's something that humans have been doing since the beginning of our existence. There's no reason to feel guilty about that. This is the identity gap. It's where sabotage lives. And when you learn to identify it, you can learn to deconstruct it. Okay, number 4, the physics of blocking your own blessings. Here's a quantum truth. You cannot receive what you believe you cannot sustain. So when you get close to a healthy relationship or a new opportunity or a higher timeline or a version of you that doesn't settle, your system scans for, do we have the identity to hold this? If the answer to that question is no, sabotage activates. This can look like procrastinating, shutting down, picking fights, attracting chaos, numbing out, overthinking, choosing the familiar over the aligned, forgetting your routines, losing momentum right when things were about to get good. Those aren't weaknesses. That is physics. It's your system trying to prevent an identity collapse. It's natural and has everything to do with the mind's response. And when you can recognize this, you can get out ahead of it. And that's the biggest piece to understand. Awareness is key. The moment you become aware of something that's going on in your field is the moment you become capable of making a decision to either disarm it or empower it. And when you can see these layers unfolding for what they are, you can actively choose whether you're going to follow them. When you can label them, this is what I'm doing and this is why, you can make decisions to change the way that blueprint is architected. And that's when you can move forward into a new timeline, one that you are and have been aligning with for a while. But that's when the layers finally open up and begin to unfold. Number 5, the 3 layers of sabotage. Let's break down the 3 layers of self-sabotage so you can walk away from this podcast knowing exactly what to look for, being highly aware of what may or may not be taking place that's going to pull you back into a calibrated field of your past. Layer 1, nervous system sabotage. Your body doesn't feel safe holding more, so it pushes back to what you know. Signs of this: anxiety when things are going well, shutting down when you're getting close to what you actually have been wanting, feeling too exposed when you're seen. And this is one of the age-old things that I've talked about for so long with that heavy anxiety connection that so many people are experiencing. When you have anxiety, you're actually calibrating to something different. It is an energetic frequency response that hits your nervous system from the core. And when you label an anxiety, you step into self-sabotage because you lock it into a thought, an idea, and an awareness that keeps you stuck. So knowing that those emotions are actually the emotions that are leading you to that next step, they are bridging the gap. They are the ladder that you need to keep rising above. Helps you to be able to identify when you experience some of that nervous system sabotage. You can understand it on a deeper level and disarm it so that you become in control of your next step. Layer 2, subconscious sabotage. This is where your beliefs don't match your desires, and this is the sneakiest one ever. You can say, I want love, but also not believe you're worthy of it. You can say, I want abundance, but also fear losing it. You can say, I want peace, but chaos feels so familiar. And you can't live in both worlds. You have to make a decision on which one you're going to promote. And when you invest in that decision, that will be what unfolds, regardless of what you believe your conscious desires are. Your subconscious desires will jump in and rule the frequency of the show. So if you want love, then you have to become aligned on all levels with love and not accept any less. If you want abundance, then you've got to do the same. The beauty of it is it's always in your control. The only question is how you're going to yield that control and what direction you're going to have it flow into. Layer 3 is identity sabotage. Your self-concept hasn't caught up to your future self. So signs of going through that identity sabotage is you don't recognize yourself in the life you're trying to build. You feel like an imposter to your own expansion. You keep returning back to the version of you that feels normal. When all 3 layers are activated at once, sabotage feels overwhelming. But when you understand them, you can dismantle them. You're not going to recognize yourself in a life that you are actively aligning with because it has not created a tangible frequency for you to read in the ether field. And I know that seems like a very difficult concept to grasp, but we as humans believe we can touch, feel, smell, and we can take our senses and make sense of. But the truth is, when you're aligning with a new identity that is forming, you're actually making sense of the etheric field, which is a field of frequency. It's a field of vibration. So it is not yet seen. It cannot yet be touched, but it can be felt. So putting more stock in that feeling your way through, in understanding if you feel it, that means it is tangible and coming into form, is a great way to keep yourself aligning and out of that world of identity sabotage as it comes up, as you're shifting into the frequency that you choose and the frequency that you desire. Okay, number 6 on how to identify self-sabotage is how to close the identity gap. This is where the shift happens. The first thing you need to do is regulate your nervous system, because your nervous system is going to hijack you and run away every single second it possibly can. You cannot embody a higher identity from being in a dysregulated state. Safety creates coherence. Coherence creates resonance. And this is why this push towards meditation and this push towards mindfulness really hit the circuit in the past decade or so, because you cannot use that frequency to change timelines without first understanding that you have aspects of yourself, the mind, body, and spirit, that all have to speak to each other in order to get there. And nervous system regulation is part of getting the body to step into that higher identity form. Learning how to regulate that is key. Bringing yourself back to center is extremely important. Allowing some of that anxiety that comes through to be labeled as you are integrating, you are not failing. Awareness, again, is so important. And there are things that are going to throw that nervous system off without you even acknowledging it. And that is one of the reasons I run my monthly classes, because there is going to be universal frequencies and energy in the etheric field that will affect you whether you like it or not. The key is, if you can understand it and you can get out ahead of it, then you become the controller of it. And with that control, everything around you begins to shift. Okay. Next, you have to make micro choices that your future self would make, not big leaps, not like I'm going to sell everything I own and I'm going to move to an island somewhere. Tiny, boring, consistent choices. So when you're asked to do something and maybe your old self would have said yes, but your new self wouldn't be aligned with behaving that way, then you have to actually say, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out. Or you know what, this one is not going to work for me. Quantum leaps are built through repetition. They're not built through force. So the more you say no to this and yes to this, the more you're going to find that what you're saying yes to formulates into tangible and meaningful shifts in your reality. So tiny decisions that are in line with the future you, that is important. Next, you need to stop negotiating with your old identity. This one is huge. You don't need to do this field check to get approval from your old self. And we do this a lot. We will say, okay, this doesn't feel good for me. This choice I put in front of me is not one that I want to continue down this road in the future. I know I've done this in the past and it's been my theme, but I don't want to continue to be that person. What we'll do, and everyone does this, is we will check back with the old self. We'll say, okay, I'm going to make this decision. And we'll go, yeah, but am I making this decision? If I do this, I might lose A, B, C, D, or things could change in this direction. I don't really want them to. And you start negotiating with your old identity. And as soon as you do that, you keep your old identity alive. So in order to allow that identity to fade, you have to starve it. You have to stop going back to it for advice, going back to it for logic, going back to it for fear, going back to it for approval. You've got to move out of that. And that's one of the most difficult things to do, but also one of the most liberating things to do. So moving forward, your objective, stop negotiating with your old identity. Choose what your new identity would do and walk fully through that door. Okay, next, build evidence that you can hold more. Your system needs proof, not affirmations. It needs evidence that, okay, I made this decision and I'm going to stick to it and I'm going to be okay. It needs your support. This is where you start focusing in on what your mind is saying to you. When you make that decision, when you say, I am going to move forward in this way, then when you do that, when that old identity tries to sneak in and question what you did, you say, I'm aligning with who I'm becoming, and I'm going to see this through to where it goes. You start to become a lot more steady with your decision-making process, and that embodies you into where you need to be in order for that process to unfold properly. Remember, identity leads, reality follows. It's key to be sure that you're clear on that as you step into it. Okay. Last, we are going to do our frequency calibration meditation like we do at the end of every single one of our sessions. This is an opportunity for you to take a time out, take a step back, share some space with me as we calibrate to the energy that we just talked about. And we do this because we aren't just trying to architect your mind and your body. We have to architect your spirit too, in order to create that wholeness, to allow anything that we talk about to actually sink in and count. So I invite you to take a breath with me. Place a hand on your heart. Let your shoulders soften as we begin. I want you to repeat softly to yourself. I am safe to expand. I am safe to evolve. I'm safe to become the version of me that already exists. Feel your field shift. Feel your system soften. And feel your future self move closer. Because that future self is not far away. They're one coherent choice away from evolving and coming into form. As you arrive here in this moment, notice the subtle shift that happens when you choose stillness. Notice how your system begins to reorganize itself the moment you pause to give it permission. Bring your awareness to the version of you that has been working so hard to survive. This version of you learned to anticipate, to overthink, to stay small, and to stay predictable. See that version in front of you, not as a flaw, but as a protector. That version has kept you alive. It's kept you functioning. It's kept you moving forward when you didn't have the tools that you have now. Place your hand on your heart and offer gratitude. Thank that part of you for everything you've carried and for everything you've protected and for everything it has protected you from. Thank that part for getting you here. Now let yourself soften. Exhale. Feel all of the weight that you've been carrying and holding on to. Imagine a soft, warm light forming around you. A light that feels safe. It feels complete. It feels expansive. With each incoming breath, welcome this light into your full being. Inhale, allow that light to move through you. Exhale and release. Inhale, safety. Exhale, fear. Inhale, expansion. Exhale, resistance. Feel the frequency begin to shift. Feel the density dissolve. You're not forcing anything. You're allowing. Now imagine a doorway in front of you that leads to a timeline where your future self already exists. It's the version of you who has integrated all of the lessons, already broken all the patterns, already stepped into their power, and already embodied your worth. Take a slow breath and step through that doorway. On the other side, see your future self. Notice how they stand, how they breathe, the softness in their face, the clarity in their eyes. Notice the groundedness in their energy. That version of you is whole. It's sovereign. It's aligned. Now walk towards that version of yourself. And as they reach their hands out and gently place them over your heart, feel the transmission. Feel the frequency. Feel the familiar energy. Feel the identity shift. You are safe to become. You are ready to become. And it's time to step into the version of what you were always meant to become. Let those words rewrite your cells as you take a deep breath and allow all of that to move into your field. Integrating it all the way down to your mind, your body, and your spirit. Whenever you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes. Take a deep breath, and you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to share these moments with me today as you expand, as we step into the architects of our reality. And each week I remind you of the version of you that you've been waiting to become. And for those of you who are ready to work directly with me on identity, frequency, timeline alignment, you can find everything you need at JillianGreyse.com. Until next time, stay aligned, stay sovereign, and stay in your highest timeline. I'll chat with you soon. Let this episode settle into your system. And if someone in your life is moving through their own patterns or stepping into their next level, send this episode to them. The vibration you're integrating becomes stronger when it's shared. And if you feel called, liking the show or leaving a review helps this work to reach people who are meant to find it. I'm Jillian Greyse, and I'll meet you in the next episode as we keep rebuilding the blueprint that you were always meant to live from.